Have you ever heard anyone asking why can't governments just print money to pay off the country's debt, or pay for everyone's education, or end the poverty, or abolish taxes, or distribute it to make everyone rich? That would be a real example of money growing on trees, right? By the end of this video, you will think that this question is absurd, which it is, but the question has been asked so many times by so many people, and there is nothing wrong to ask. But before you can wish for more money printed, you have to answer, what is money? If your answer is anything like, money is something that buys things, then we have to update this definition. Money is a medium that determines the value of goods and services. This medium could be in the form of coins, gold, banknotes, or anything that is verifiable and acceptable. The medium itself does not hold any intrinsic value. Instead, it is only considered valuable because it quantifies the value of goods and services. If you are stuck on an island all by yourself, like Tom Hanks in Castaway, and you happen to have your pockets full of money in the form of banknotes, they are good for nothing, because you can't buy anything with it on that island. In short, money is like Tinkerbell, the fairy from Peter Pan, that only existed because an audience believed it existed. We have three types of money. Back when there was no proper medium to exchange things of value, there used to be what's called commodity money, whose value is derived from a commodity it is made. For example, person A has some barley, and person B has cocoa beans. They can exchange with each other. This is also called barter. How much it will be exchanged would depend on the decided value between them. But you can't carry your barley all the time everywhere, and for many other reasons that can't work. There is also intrinsic value under commodity money, which could be metals like gold that are desirable and can be used as a medium of exchange as well as a way to store wealth more easily. Weapons, horses, precious metals, etc. are some of the examples of money used throughout history. Technically, gold and silver have no intrinsic value either, but it has been generally accepted that they have a value due to their scarcity, desirability, and other factors. But you can't keep your valuables in your pockets all the time, and you can't carry your gold either for many obvious reasons. Then comes the second type, which is called representative money, which involves something not so valuable, like a banknote representing your valuables. It works in a way that you give your gold to the bank, and the bank gives you paper money issued by the government that puts a number on how much gold you have in the bank, and you can go exchange this money to buy other valuables. Then comes the third type of money, also known as fiat money, that is currently in use. Although fiat money has been tried in different eras in history, its most recent example was back in 1971 when President Richard Nixon officially abandoned the gold standard and adopted the fiat money and announced that the US dollar that used to be a representative for gold won't be backed by the gold anymore. That is also known as Nixon shock, and it made fiat money to be widely acceptable. A system of national fiat money was implemented globally with variable exchange rates between major currencies. Since then, your banknotes have no convertibility in gold or any other thing of value. Now that you understand that it's not backed by anything except for the government's trust, does that mean that the governments can print as much money as they want? Before we can get into why governments print money or why they should or shouldn't, let's first understand what printing money means. Let's say the government decides to inject more money into the economy. Three entities get involved in the process: the government, the Treasury Department, and the central bank like Federal Reserve in the US, also known as the Feds. The government has no power to print the money, but it can approve it for a reason like a stimulus. The Treasury then raises this money by selling Treasury bonds to the groups that are savers that include the public sector, the private sector, and the foreign entities. The government is responsible for paying back this money with interest while it can use the borrowed money for stimulus. The central banks can print money to purchase these treasury bonds. But when someone uses the term printing money, that does not mean that they are physically printing and their printing machines are all going brrrr. That means the central banks push a few buttons and credit the treasury's account with money. It's electronic money instead of paper, but it's still money, and that's why you can use the term printing money for this process. Let's suppose an economy produces $10 million worth of goods. Let's say 1 million chairs at $10 each. The money circulating in the economy is $10 million. No economy consists only of chairs with the same price tag, but we're just using a simple example for the sake of understanding. So let's say for some reasons the government decides to print another $10 million. The money circulating in the economy is now $20 million, but the economy still only has 1 million chairs. As we discussed earlier, the money just quantifies the value of goods, and in this example, the number of goods is still the same. But people have more money and they will go out to spend this money. This will make the demand go up. The sellers will see greater demand from people. This will make the prices go up due to little supply for greater demand. The likely outcome would be the economy producing 1 million shares sold at $20 instead of $10. On paper, the economy is now worth $20 million, but it's just an illusion as people are just paying more than earlier. Printing more money only increases the amount of cash flowing in the economy without increasing the economic output. The disturbance in supply and demand depreciates the purchasing power of the currency. That means the value of the money is decreased, or in other words, the same amount of money buys fewer goods than it was capable of buying earlier. In one word, it's called inflation. On the other hand, if the money supply stays the same while the economy is producing more goods and services, then each banknote would see an increase in value as it buys more than earlier, and that is called deflation. That sounds good, but it isn't. Too much inflation means your money would be worth less than it is now, so you would want to spend it now rather than in the future. While this could boost the businesses, but it also could fall under the category of overconsumption or hoarding commodities, resulting in the increment of its demand, followed by higher prices, followed by a shortage of goods and services. On the other hand, deflation can make the people hold on to their money, which means less consumer spending and fewer business profits and more unemployment from the shrinkage of the economy. In short, deflation is bad, and so is too much inflation. But a little bit of inflation is okay. In fact, it's good, because it keeps the economy growing, and people and companies keep investing, and people stay employed. That's why the central banks using their sophisticated data try to target a specific amount of inflation. Economists believe that targeting around 2% inflation is the right way to go. Countries with good economies usually have an inflation rate somewhere between 0 to 5%. But if the government prints way too much and the demand for goods and services go up, and so are the prices, and inflation reaches a crazy high like up to 50% monthly inflation, that's when we use the term hyperinflation. Now, this isn't just a theory in economics. We have seen examples where printing more money resulted in the economic decline. A more recent example is Zimbabwe that faced an economic collapse in 2008. There were a series of events including President Robert Mugabe's land reforms of 2000 and 2001 to redistribute land largely from white farmers to the majority black populace. Involvement in Congo's civil war and other socialist reforms resulted in increased government spending, for which they printed money like no other. Prices were getting doubled every 24 hours, and the government decided to print more and more with higher denominations. By the end of the whole drama, they were printing trillion-dollar bills. Hyperinflation was an obvious outcome, and the government decided to force the businesses to not raise prices, and force is not a good idea. Their currency was abandoned later, and the country has no national currency to this day, and they have to rely on the US dollar and euros and so on. From 1945 to 1946, Hungary saw the worst hyperinflation in history. After World War II, after signing a peace treaty, they were ordered to pay massive reparations to the Soviets. The central banks printed the money to pay for it, and as expected, they had to face hyperinflation so bad that prices were rising every 15 hours. It was at 419, but with 14 zeros after that, so it can only be expressed in formulas. The wealth of a nation doesn't increase by printing more money. The little green pieces of paper you have are not equal to wealth if it can't buy anything. Countries using central banks do resort to printing more money, or what is called quantitative easing, but only to incite economic activity. But they can't just go on a printing spree because that disturbs the supply and demand cycle, which results in inflation, and if that gets out of hand, then it becomes hyperinflation, and that makes your paper money as good as wallpaper, or even worse. That's why it's said that if money grew on trees, it would be as valuable as leaves. Thank you for watching. We will reply to every question in the comment section.